As you travel, you will see huge changes in the vegetation of the climate. Even the surface of the Earth itself will move as mountain ranges are pushed up by colliding continents.
Hi, Jetto. Okay. It's going to take a long time. These are basically impossible to dust properly. The old Invictus, gorgeous. Kyoto. Okay, I'll just check it's actually working. It is working. I think there might be a slight delay, maybe 5 seconds, but good idea to use a brush. Okay, I'm going to get to work. Oh. This is the T-Rex that's been repainted. By a member of the original Dino Toy Forum. Oh, I can't remember his name. I think it was Teton Baby Doll. I think, if you remember That was so many years ago now. This is one of the Fame Master puzzles, one of the better ones, although it's a little bit outdated by today's standards. But it's really, I love the colours, the orange and the white spots, and it's a very dynamic, balanced pose. This thing balances on 2 legs. It's a good one. A little Packy from the recent Walking with Dinosaurs film. Can't think what the company is now, is it? Oh yeah, VIG Limited. I can't think what it stands for now. Right, I'm trying to watch the feed and the video at the same time, which is difficult because there's a slight delay. But what I will do is I will focus on the chat, because then I can talk to you. By the way, we've got a long way to go. I've done what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's probably a few hundred. And this is just the one shelf. I don't know if I'm going to do everything. Oh, by the way, I've got music playing. Can you hear that, or would it be easier without it? Or more enjoyable? There's Doug Watson's gorgeous Sauropelta Wild Safari. A must have for any collector, really. Even people who prefer marine reptiles. This one doesn't need dusting because it's a recent acquisition, just in the last few days, the little PNSO baby Mamenchisaurus. Bought at Walton Hall, the Dinosaurs of China exhibition shop, before it closed a few days ago. This one's a little statue of 2 Protoceratops hatching, which I've had ever since I was a kid. There's no information about who made it, but I've always liked it. I always thought they were quite cute. Let's see if I can get the chat and the live video on at the same time so I can see what I'm doing. So when I hold up the figures, I want to make sure that you can see them, and I can't see it. Let's see. That's better. That one is the Shrike baby. Is it Parasaurolophus or just Saurolophus? It doesn't say. I think it's a baby Parasaurolophus. It's one of the older ones, 2007. It actually says Procon, so it tells you how long ago that was. More walking with dinosaurs from the recent movie. I bought these before I'd seen the film. I don't know if I had seen the film first whether I would have gone ahead and made the purchases, but I bought, I think, the whole set really to review on the blog. They're nice because they do make a nice sound. The trouble with these, of course, is their joints, although they've got many of them, they come a bit loose. So that's why I've had this one sort of crouching down on its heels. So it's a lot more stable than trying to have it balanced on its toes. I am going to turn the music down. Just a touch. Another one from my childhood. This is UKRD. I had a lot of these. Apatosaurus. Parasaurolophus baby, yeah. Lucky joints. Apart from the film being awful, those figures are actually really nice. They did a good job with the design work. I think Mark Whitten, the paleontologist, was involved. A Styracosaurus from a set, I can't remember now what the, oh yes, Colorata. Striking pink head. $1993. Yeah, it would have been about the same time that I bought mine. Although I don't have the Pachycephalosaurus. One of the few that I don't have. This is a retired Carnegie figure, the Daltodromius. Really nice, just a bizarre choice of paintwork on the head there, like somebody's Tipex on it. It's on both sides, so it's genuine. Looks a bit unusual to me. Another PNSO. This one is the Proceratosaurus. Beautiful sculpts. I have added a little acrylic rod just to keep it stable. It doesn't fall over, but it's twisted over to the side, and it looks a bit unnatural, so that just makes it look a bit more balanced. Another Safari Limited figure, recent. Another Doug Watson sculpt, actually, they're really great. Coelophysis, of course. I bought that one too from the Dinosaurs of China exhibition. This one is another Invicta, one of the rarer ones, the Lambeosaurus. Probably, yeah, amongst my favourite of all of the Invicta. There's just something about it that's so natural. and because it was one of the later releases, it doesn't suffer from the old-fashioned sort of tripod tail dragging pose that a lot of the other Invictus have. So one of my most valuable possessions. In the NHM in London, I suppose that there wasn't many other places outside of the UK that you could buy them in. The 2006, that's quite recent. I'm surprised they still had them then. I thought they were probably early 2000, very, very early 2000s. I thought that was the end of them. Here's another one from the Colorado set. Yeah, very lucky. I suppose you got them quite cheaply as well. They were reasonably priced. Of course, the big sauropods were the most expensive. That's why it took me so long to complete the set. And it was the big Brachiosaur that was the last one, just because it was so expensive. I had to wait until, I think, my 16th birthday when I finally received the big Brachiosaurus. That's a Spinosaurus. Oops. Okay. Another collector figure. This is Brachiosaurus, one of the older ones. I only bought it because I live opposite a big supermarket, and they happened to be stocking collector figures one day. I just couldn't resist. I probably wouldn't have bought it otherwise. But it's not too bad. One of the better ones. The only model is not in my collection is the Stenonychosaurus. Yeah, I think that's probably the most difficult one to get. I do have it hiding down here. We'll get there eventually. It's unusual because it's the only Invicta that comes in two parts. So the base is separately molded in a different color plastic to the figure, and the figure has little pegs on its toes which slot very tightly into the base, and the base has the information on the name and the make. I think the figure itself, the pink figure, I think it doesn't have the information on it. Oh, this one's in little bits. This is another Japanese. This one is from Gakuen. It says on the bottom. I don't know why, but I thought that was Colorado. Anyway, I've got a terrible memory, so if it isn't one of the big companies, I usually forget. But it's a nice little diorama scene with a baby Triceratops and the adult, the mother. And it just sits in little depressions on the base. So it's loose. The second version of Brachiosaurus, it has the whole base, really similar. Invicta, not the Invicta Brachiosaurus. This one is one of the original Walking with Dinosaurs figures, the Allosaurus. Some of these Walking with Dinosaurs figures suffer from warping of the legs, and that's what's happened here on the Allosaur. It doesn't really stand up by itself very easily, so I have to wedge it in between other figures. But yeah, really nice figures actually. The only problem with these is they're a little bit static, a bit boring, but there's something I quite like about that. I find if a figure has too much of a dynamic pose, it means that you're a bit, especially if you're a kid, that you've not got as much freedom to use your imagination. Whereas if something is just in a simple standing pose, you can, run around with it, and you can add in the movements and your imagination that you wish. This Utahraptor is perched underneath the Papo T-Rex, the tail underneath the T-Rex's arm, just to stop it from falling over. And in the case of this one, I've added an acrylic rod between the arm and the foot, just to try and minimize that warping I was talking about earlier. So this is another of the original Walking with Dinosaurs figures. Doesn't have any feathers, unfortunately, but apart from that, it's a wonderful, wonderful mold. Accurate hands. They did a really good job. And I think had the CGI been capable, they would have gone for the feathered look as well. It was more because computer generating feathers is more difficult than scales. Yeah, I've got the Liopleurodon as well. The Liopleurodon from Toyway I've got the whole set actually. It was easy to find them back in the day, 1999, 2000. I think I bought some of them in the Natural History Museum in London and some others in a toy shop in Bath or somewhere. And didn't know they existed until we walked into the shop and found them and were just completely amazed. But of course, the pliosaur is with my other marine reptiles. This is everything on these three shelves is dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures. The top shelf is marine reptiles, but everything that's a miniature marine reptile. And then I've got another shelf, actually a series of shelves for the larger figures. One day I'd like to have all of the marine reptiles displayed together. But the problem, of course, we all have it, is the problem of space. This is a Bullyland figure from Germany. I bought this in a museum in Germany when I was on a field trip there. And I like it because it's, again, it balances nicely on two legs. There's a large pile of dinosaurs now building up here behind the camera. I like to take it slowly. There's no need to rush. Cryolophosaurus here by Safari Limited, Carnegie collection. Hi Spino Guy, Spinosaur Slasher. Same patterns. Yeah. Yeah, it even has the red throat, actually, looking at it now. You're right. I never really thought about that. What year is that T-Rex? Let's have a look. Holy Land. Oh, I don't think it says. Holy Land, made in Germany, hand-painted. Tyrannosaurus Rex, scale 1 to 30, but no year. I've just noticed on the underside of its feet it has little holes, a bit like Star Wars figures, the original vintage Star Wars figures. So they slotted in there the play sets, but there's no Bullyland play set, so I don't know what the point of those holes is. Maybe they're just saving a minute amount of plastic. But yeah, I think you're right. They must have taken inspiration for the color scheme of the T-Rex from the Walking with Dinosaurs version, because it's identical. Here's the mighty Papo T-Rex, the rearing one, and it's enjoying a meal, a Confuciusornis by Papo. No, the Confuciusornis is by PNSO, the T-Rex is by Papo. Really nice detail on the feathers, spots on the tail. This was one of the best sellers in the Dinosaurs of China shop, mostly because we had a genuine fossil of a Confuciusornis in the exhibition. And I think visitors tend to go for the toys of the creatures that they've seen, rather than the usual suspects, the T-Rexes and the Triceratops. At least I do, and all of the people who have any interest in toys do. And that's the ubiquitous Papo T-Rex, the original one, the green one. I think there have been multiple colour versions since. Brown one. Was there a rainbow one? Maybe, but I tend not to go for multiple versions, multiple colour versions. I just like to have an example of each sculpt. Yeah, Bullyland have gone a bit downhill recently. It is a shame. Okay, it looks like this Styracosaurus is holding up the big red Rex. So I'll just make sure we're okay. This is the stunning Styracosaurus by Carnegie, I think was the brand. Again, my memory fails me, but I bought this one in the Natural History Museum, I think on the same trip that I bought some of the Walking with Dinosaurs. So back then, London was a great venue for collecting dinosaur figures. The same cannot be said today. It's a mostly cheapo Chinosaurs and other tat. Not too bad for books, but dinosaur collectors will always be disappointed. This one's a nice one. Quite a lot of articulation in the head and also all of the legs. It comes with a base, but the base is underneath. I've got the base here underneath the shelving unit, just because it takes up too much space. This one is a Chasmosaurus by, this is a Jurassic Park Chasmosaurus by Kenner from the Lost World. Another one of the ones that I bought myself, I think with birthday money or Christmas money back in the 90s. Still has a, yeah, the battery is still going 20 years later. Not too bad. Really nice choice of species. I don't know why they picked it. I can't remember ever hearing about Chasmosaurus being in Jurassic Park, either in the books or in any of the movies. So I'm not entirely sure why they went for this one as opposed to, say, Styracosaurus, which would be a more obvious choice. But I'm glad they did, because it's nice for a change. Dino Jaws. The colour of the eyes is orange and not golden. Let's see. Oh yeah, you're right. Mine is golden. Does that make it rare? When the exhibition of Dino Jaws I saw. Dino Jaws? Where did you see Dino Jaws? Sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions now. Oh. Sorry about the delay. I think there's a 5 or 10 second delay, which makes it a bit difficult for me to talk in real time. Another beautiful Bullyland figure from back when Bullyland were an exceptional company in terms of dinosaur figures. This is a Pteranodon sternbergi. I think it might have been given a new genus name since. And there were two versions of this. This was my favorite, the one that's sort of in a standing position. And there's a similar version, but it's in a flying pose. I had to go for the standing one just because it was something a bit unusual. I do have a few JP3 figures, but not many because they're not so good. And I don't know, I might not have any on display here. No, I've got a few oh no, maybe. Yeah, I've got the Arctic T-Rex here. We'll get to that soon. I think that was a JP figure, JP3 figure. Okay, the Dino Jaws. I saw the Dino Jaws exhibition as well in the NHM, so we must have both gone to the Natural History Museum the same year. The reason why I'm interested in when you went to see Dino Jaws is because when I was a curator at the think tank Birmingham Science Museum, we loaned the Dino Jaws animatronics and built our own version of the Dino Jaws exhibition as a temporary exhibition in the summer. A few years ago now. I put a trailer on YouTube, and I wondered if you happened to have been to the think tank version of the Dino Jaws exhibition, but no, the London one makes more sense. This one is obviously the Big Red Rex. I never had it when I was a young child, when it was first released, but I did get it a few years later, second hand from one of my friends who received it for Christmas one year when he was young, and I was very jealous. And then a few years later, of course, he lost his interest in dinosaurs and Jurassic Park, but mine was as strong as ever. And so my parents were able to buy these secondhand from him. And finally, the Big Red Rex made his way into my collection. And I think I would have been about 16, 17, 18, quite old when that was, when I received this. Unfortunately, it's got some silver scuffs on its flanks, and these appeared after it was boxed up for a while in a shed when I went away to university, and I've never been able to remove them. It's just on the one side. I actually remember posting about this on the Dinosaur Toy forum about a problem I had with mold growing on some of my figures, which I'd boxed up very quickly and they'd been put in a shed outside. And I think this is part of that same disaster. I lost a few Jurassic Park figures entirely, had to bin them, but this was one of the ones that thankfully survived. I'd have been very upset if it had not. Am I aware of the 2018 Safari Limited figures? I am. I know more than I can say because I was a consultant on some of them. So I'm aware of some of the figures that haven't even been announced yet. Which, as you can imagine, as a dinosaur toy collector and enthusiast, it's very difficult for me to bite my tongue when I'm following the discussions about what figures are going to be released. But I'm obliged to. I've signed a non-disclosure agreement. And I respect Safari Limited far too much to let the cat out of the bag. Here is the Lambeosaurus, one of the more recent Bullyland figures, one of the few good versions. It's not brilliant, but it's compared to some of their other recent releases, it's very good. I like the colour scheme. I love the big thumbs up on its head. It looks like a mitten with a thumb. Yo. So yeah, I've always been fond of this one. I bought this a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, in the Stuttgart Museum when I was on holiday there. It doesn't look so new. It doesn't make sounds anymore, certainly, this big red Rex. Oh, the big red Rex, £30, something like that. I'm not entirely sure how much it cost back in 1993. I would have got it, well, my parents would have bought it for a lot cheaper than that, second hand. Yeah, I think it's a good size. I think where JP3 went wrong was they started to make all of the figures the same sort of size, which is just not as fun. And yeah, the quality went downhill. And the new Jurassic World figures, awful. An embarrassment. Such a shame as well. So many opportunities. This is another one of the 3D puzzles. This one's a Styracosaurus. Fame Master, I think, is the brand name. This one's got sharp teeth. We can forgive it though, it's only a little fun figure. Another one of the Safari Limited Wild Safari figures. This one's a few years old now, in 2007, a decade old. Time flies. A green Allosaurus, of course. We're nearly done with this shelf. Maybe we can speed up a bit. The original sculpt of the Carnegie Stegosaurus by Safari Limited, not Wild Safari. But this is one of the colour variants. I don't have the original. I didn't have any of the original Carnegie figures actually. They were hard to come by in the UK. This is a skeleton of an Apatosaurus. It's UKRD, I think. Is it? Made in China. I can't read it. It says Camarasaurus. I think it's UKRD. It came in a pack, I remember, with a lifelike figure. In fact, I've already dusted it, and I called it an Apatosaurus. I'm pretty sure those two came in the same pack. Let me see. So this blue figure here, I said it was an Apatosaurus, and it is. Apatosaurus UKRD. But you can see they're almost identical in their pose, posture, the way their feet. And they, if I remember correctly, I was a kid. This was in 1992, so I would have been about 12 years old. But I'm pretty sure they came together in a pack, in one single blister pack like that. The only reason why I doubt myself is because this one says Apatosaurus and the skeleton says Camarasaurus, which is a bit unusual. But you can see for yourself that they're a nice pair. You have the Paki skeleton to go with the Paki model. Can you confirm then, are they really UKRD, the skeletons as well? This is another colorata. The Myosaura here with the nest. It's a bit of a meme in paleo art, but that's fair enough. The name does mean mother lizard. Good mother lizard. This is a rarity in my collection. I don't have much Slike because Slike have always been terrible when it comes to prehistoric figures. But I recently saw this Kentrosaurus when I went on holiday to Madeira, the Portuguese island, and decided to pick that up as a little memento of the trip. One of the few Slike models which are spectacular, really. And it's a wonderful dinosaur species to choose. I know it's not technically a species, it's a genus, but it's simpler. Nice coloration as well, purples and yellows. Yeah, so here is the Jurassic Park 3. It's got that on the leg, so I was right. The Arctic T-Rex. The batteries still work. And there's a little button on its throat here, which makes the jaws open and close. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why I bought this. I can't even remember buying it. I must have been taken by the color scheme. Oh, my back's starting to hurt. It's because I'm bending down all the time to look at the chat. In fact, I'm going to sit down. Here's the recent Wild Safari Diplodocus, or Diplodocus if you prefer, or Diplodocus if you prefer even more. I'm quite pleased with this one, especially because I was involved with the design as a consultant. The only thing that was really beyond my input was the color scheme, and that's true for the color scheme in all of the figures that I've advised on, except for the Microraptor, which I wanted to ensure was black. Really nice, elegant model. Very narrow body, which is actually the case for Diplodocus. Unlike some of the other sauropods, like the Titanosaurs, which have very wide bodies, and this beautiful long whip-like tail. Look, we've cleared a shelf. Hi, Patrick. Here's the Papo Allosaurus, the original version. Have there been other versions? Other colour schemes of the Allosaur? I don't know now. I think there have been, but this is the original. And I think even today, this is probably my favourite dinosaur toy. Even though it's not the most accurate, there's just something about it. A little bit like the Invictus. They're not the most accurate either, but there's just something about them. You can't quite quantify it. There's a sort of sense of realism there. I think that's what it is. And movement. I think before Papo came along, there were no figures that had quite as much movement as this. I'm glad you agree the Watafari Dippy is excellent. You don't have it yet. You need to get it. We were just talking about the Microraptor, and here it is. It was a lot of work, I have to say, to get this to look like it looks. Even having advised the sculptor right from the very beginning to think of these creatures more like birds and not to do the old sculptor body and stick feathers on it later. That was still what happened, and it had to go through many revisions. And that's the case actually with all of these figures. So although no figure is ever perfect, I think if collectors realised just how bad they could possibly be, they'd be much more satisfied. Another one from my childhood. This is in Invicta Pteranodon. This one gathers a lot of dust, of course, because it's got these huge flat surfaces. It's also a difficult one to display because it takes up so much surface area. But it's a tiny little thing. It's like a little wisp of plastic. It would blow away in a breeze. You've got to get the Microraptor. Okay. Oh, this is a daunting task. This is why I don't do it very often. Oh, look, I've just seen a plesiosaur, which has come from here. And I noticed this yesterday. There's a little shadow where dust has fallen around. And I wondered where this had gone. I thought it might have been knocked over and sucked up by the vacuum cleaner. But it found its way in amongst these dinosaurs down here. Safe and sound. Here's Doug Watson's Apatosaurus wild safari. I had nothing to do with this one. there was a bit of a debate about the neck on this figure in the new for 2018 Safari Limited figures thread on Dinosaur Toy Forum. I think it's much ado about nothing. I think it's a wonderful figure. Simple grey coloration, why not? Not every dinosaur has to be bright and colourful, and you'd expect that a big animal like that wouldn't need to have bright colours to scare away predators or need colours to blend into its environment. Rhinos are grey, elephants are grey, why not? This one is, I think it's a little bit rarer. This is another, no, it's not UK art. This is a Funrise figure, a Psittacosaurus. And I remember this from my childhood as well. Funrise 1990. So I would have been 10 years old when I got this. It's got these weird camp-looking bunny hands, almost like they're melting off. But despite that, I really like it, and Psittacosaurus figures are relatively rare. The Walking with Dinosaurs CD has finished, so I'm going to think what else I can put on. And appropriately, talking of walking with dinosaurs, here's another figure from that original line. This is the Torosaurus. A bit funny looking, but not bad. These figures are really difficult to keep pristine. The paint comes off very easily if you knock them. The paint scratches off. This one looks like it's in quite good condition though. I tried to look after them. Okay, I'm going to change the CD. Right. This is another miniature PNSO. This one is a Tujiangosaurus, I think. Doesn't say, but I'm pretty sure it is. Chinese species. Picked out because of the connection to Dinosaurs of China, which is where I bought it. A blue Psittacosaurus with jointed arms. Doesn't ring any bells. Was there a definitely Dinosaurs Psittacosaurus? If not, or if that's not it, then I'm not sure. Yeah, well, I'm a paleontologist and I'm interested in accuracy, but it isn't what it's all about. And I can happily take an inaccurate figure if it has a certain amount of charm, or if sometimes these things just have a connection to events in your lives. Like, for example, the Iguanodon, is this Iguanodon? I think it is, yeah. Iguanodon by Toyway, another Walking with Dinosaurs. This has got some of the worst inaccuracies in any figure. I don't know how it happened, but it's got these bizarre feet with 4 toes, like some sort of alien creature. I don't know how it happened, because otherwise it's really good, and all of the Walking with Dinosaurs models are. So I don't know if it was some sort of error because they couldn't see the back of the feet when they were doing the scans, or if they genuinely added these in their models. But it's things like that that add a little bit of charm and intrigue to some figures, and sometimes they're worth collecting for that reason alone. The only problem with this one, it looks like it's been sipping cream. It's got white lips. I'm soon going to be running out of space on this table. Teeny tiny micro machines. This is a Pachycephalosaurus. This has got articulated arms. This isn't the one you're referring to, is it, Patrick? This one's by Micro Machines. As far as I'm aware, it was only sold in these blister packs. It also articulates on its legs and has a little base to help it stand. This one was sold in the shop of the think tank Birmingham Science Museum when I worked there, so I connect this one to that job. And it's a baryonyx grabbing a fish, very reminiscent of the Invicta actually. And this is by, oh, what company makes this? K&M. So you can't have a baryonyx figure without it holding a fish. This is interesting. There's a little hole here. It looks like a black paint mark. That's actually a hole leading into the hollow figure. They're a little bit cheap. You can see there's a line, a join running around here where 2 parts have been put together. So these are like a cross between a good known brand and a tacky Chinosaur. More Invicta. We'll probably find a lot of Invicta as we go through this collection because I've got them all and I like them enough that I display them all, or at least I display the vast majority of them. Whereas the figures that I own but don't like so much, they usually end up in boxes under the bed or in other places. So that's, I think, the smallest Invicta figure, and also one of the later ones, so it's a little bit more tricky to find. I found a big pot of them for 50p each in a small museum in Warwick, and obviously grabbed a huge handful. This was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and I think they still have them. Who said we needed more baryonyx figures? This one's by Schleich. I don't have many Schleich, as I said earlier, but I have Schleich figures that are intriguing, interesting for one reason or another. And this baryonyx certainly is. Such a weird 4-legged pose. I think this one might be quite difficult to get hold of as well. Yeah, Schleich 2001, so it's quite old, out of production now for many years. the first baryonyx figure was, yeah, it does have 4 fingers, and also it's supposed to have 1 enlarged claw. I suppose it does slightly, but not really. So it's one distinguishing characteristic, at least back then, when it was a few years after it was found. They haven't really captured the essence of the baryonyx. It looks a bit more like some weird crocodile. More Bullyland. Again, I go to Germany quite a lot for research. My wife is from Germany, and so whenever we go to a new city, I'll pick out a figure to remember the trip. And this is the figure that I bought when we went to Freiburg in southern Germany, in the small museum there. It was a choice, I remember, between this Dimetrodon and the feathered Dilophosaurus, and I just preferred this one all around. The Dilophosaurus didn't really take my fancy. Turn the music down. This is a Parasaurolophus skeleton, another one I've had for a very long time. I can't remember buying it, but it's probably from when I was 9 or 10. And I know that this one glows in the dark. It's slightly translucent. Again, it's not always about accuracy. Every figure tells a story. How much dust there is. This one is the Cetiosaurus. There's a Cetiosaurus skeleton just up the road from me on display in the Newark Museum in Leicester. And Leicester is actually the city where Invicta Plastics were based. That's where their factory was. So maybe that's a factor in why they decided to create a Cetiosaurus model. I think it must have been one of the later sauropods, because they're Diplodocus, they're Apatosaurus. They have tails that drag along the ground. This is a much more modern take on sauropods with the tail in the air. Do they have dates? 1985. So even back in the 80s, I would have been 5 years old. They still had their dinosaurs with their tails in the air. That was not the case in the books at the time, I tell you. Here's another little micro machine. This is an ankylosaur. Is it an ankylosaurus? I think it is, or Europlacephalus. Invicta again, the classic pink Stegosaurus. Tiny, tiny head. Yeah, you can almost age a Schleich figure based on the pose and the style. Maybe they went through a different sculptor or a bunch of sculptors. That's a Stegosaurus. Another Bullyland figure. This is the feathered velociraptor from a few years ago. When was it? 2000? I can't remember. 2011, 12, something like that. It's not terrible, but it's not brilliant either. They tried. It's not always obvious, but it's sort of twisting. If you can see, yeah, look at it from the front. It's sort of twisting its torso with one arm in the air and the other one facing downwards. Almost like it's about to punch a Protoceratops. That well-known velociraptor saying. This is a more recent wild safari. Scutosaurus. Well, it would be great if you could visit Nottingham. The trouble is, we don't have much in the way of dinosaurs. Our Dinosaurs of China exhibition was a temporary exhibition. It ran over the summer. Most of the time, we've only got a few dinosaur bones, iguanodon bits and pieces. So if you're coming to Nottingham to look for dinosaurs, you might be disappointed unless we happen to have another dinosaur exhibition in town, which we're hoping we will. But of course, you'd be welcome anyway to visit the Nottingham Natural History Museum at Wollaston Hall, and I'd be glad to show you around. Even though we don't have dinosaurs, we do have lots of marine reptiles. This is a UKRD, yeah, UKRD Triceratops 1992, another one of my childhood figures. Even when I was a kid though, 11 years old, 12 years old, they were not really played with. They went on shelves to be admired. This is the Carnegie collection baby Apatosaurus. Classic. Oh, I'd love to go to Chris's Park in Tennessee as well. One day. Oh, you repainted the Velociraptor. What colour? What I'd love to have on display in Wollaston Hall is a whale. We don't have many marine animals in the collection. Nothing big anyway. But I wondered if it might be possible somehow to acquire a whale skeleton. It's difficult because they're protected. So there's lots of rules and regulations about trade in endangered animals like that. But they are washed up quite regularly, and I know that sometimes they just end up being dumped. And if I could possibly rescue a carcass from that fate and put it on display in a natural history museum, I think it would be better for everybody. That was the one I just showed you there. That was the wild safari Dilophosaurus. I think it's one of the weaker of the more recent figures. It's a little bit too spindly for my liking. And this one here is Carnegie collection, Giganotosaurus. Isn't it? Yeah. I had to double think then. I was very lucky, actually. I had very few Carnegie figures when I was growing up, maybe one or two. I've now got nearly all of them, and that's because Safari were kind enough when I was just starting out with the Dinosaur Toy blog to send me samples of most of their figures to be reviewed on the blog. And so I ended up with the vast majority of them. We were both winners. This Baryonyx here is holding up the big T-Rex at the back, so I'm going to move that one first. They're all standing on each other. Okay. This is Walking with Dinosaurs, T-Rex hand puppet. It's about the same size as the Big Red Rex by Kenner, the Jurassic Park one. It has a slit here on its chest, which is where you are supposed to put your hand through. I can't actually fit my hand into it, and I can't imagine that there would be much point. In fact, I think even a child would struggle to fit their hand into this opening. It's really tough plastic. I think they'd have been better off just not bothering with that at all and just having a nice big figure to play with. And it's all molded in one single piece, apart from the tail, which is jointed and can rotate. I wonder if you can take that off to put your hand in there. Maybe that was the intention. I don't want to do it just in case I can't put it back. And it's got, unfortunately, wonky legs, so it doesn't stand up very well. Even, well, just about leaning on its tail, it stands up, but not very stable. It was the only one of its kind. I don't think there were any other species that were made in this sort of scale or style. Let's see, I'll put it, I might put this over this side actually, keep it out of the way. Thalassemedon, a great elasmosaurid. Just catching up on the comments. How many people are watching this, I wonder? How many people are being bored to death? 3. It's you two and one other hiding away. This is another Baryonyx with a fish in its hand. You can't have a Baryonyx without a fish in its hand. I've actually got 2 versions of this. 3, because I've got the same one twice. I've got this one also up here. And then down on the bottom shelf, I've got the coloured version, which is the one I had when I was a kid. Invicta Iguanodon, giving a thumbs up. Ooh, retro. Always like this model. And one from my very young collecting days. Must be one of the first figures I ever received. And started my love for Invicta models. And on that topic, this is the infamous Invicta Stenonychosaurus, or Trudon. I was talking earlier about the base being separate to the main body, and it's the base that has all of the text on the underside, whereas the model itself, the figure, is completely bare. And while the Iguanodon was one of the first figures in this line that I acquired, this one, along with the Brachiosaurus, because it was so huge and expensive, were among the last. Really nice. You don't get many figures of small theropods like this. So they were really making new ground when they decided to pick this species to mold. Yeah, I've seen the Invictas in lots of different colours, but there were standard colours. I'm pretty confident yellow was the standard, basic colour for the Iguanodon. But they did do others in different colours occasionally. They're much more difficult to find. This is the Sioux Collection T-Rex, sculpted, I think, by Doug Watson. It's a small version. It's by Safari Limited, of course. Put that down there. This is the Bullyland Archaeopteryx. Again, I've got more Bullyland than I realise. I think it's because I do go to Germany quite a lot, and every time I go, I pick up another one. I got this when I was doing my undergraduate degree in paleobiology. We went on a field trip to Germany, and I picked this one up in Eichstätt, in the museum where one of the few Archaeoraptor fossils is on display. So it seemed a logical choice. I think there's a few colour versions of this figure as well, but this one is quite pleasing. Beautiful wings. It's pretty tough to find. Yeah, the Stenonychosaurus, even in the UK, you'll struggle to find it. The best place to look is second-hand shops and then eBay. But even eBay, it doesn't come up very often, and when it does, the numbers go up quite rapidly. I wouldn't pay much more than £30. I think anything more than that would be a bit too much. This is the PNSO miniature Uranosaurus. I picked this one out because I love the coloration. There's no rhyme or reason to the way that I arrange my figures. It's a bit of a mix match of different companies and taxa. The only structure is marine reptiles on the top, and then large sauropods. They're mostly too big to fit amongst the small ones, and so they have a separate shelf somewhere else. Otherwise, it's pretty random, and I like it that way. This is a mystery. If any of you guys know what company made this, it's a sleeping Spinosaurus, I suppose. It's sort of crouching down on its legs. It's got small arms. It doesn't have large arms, which is why I think it's a Spinosaurus and not an unusual Dimetrodon. It just has one label on the bottom, made in China, but it's actually, I think it's porcelain. and I've had this for a long time. I can't actually remember where I bought this, but I always thought it was nice. I like the pose in this sort of crouching, sleeping position, and it's got a little bit of something about it. It's got some character. I've never seen it since. No idea if it's rare or expensive. So if anybody knows. Another walking with dinosaurs. This is the Postosuchus. Toyway is the company. This is a tiny velociraptor. This came out of an egg with candies or sweets. I think the company is Tops who created this. There was 4 in the series. I think I've got others down here, which we'll get to later. But I'm missing one. I think there was a Brachiosaurus, which I know I had, but I've not been able to find it. So maybe that's a victim of being sucked up by a vacuum cleaner at some point. This is a really nice, nicely balanced Albertosaurus Tyrannosaur by the Carnegie collection, Safari Limited. Quite a few Carnegies now. This is the Bepausaurus, a Therizinosaur. Again, very well sculpted. It is from Tops. Good, good. I've got some other figures from Tops, not part of the Jurassic Park line. I've only got one actually. It's a Plesiosaurus. This is a mystery to me. This is a Syntausaurus. It says Lambeosaurus, but it's definitely not a Lambeosaurus. Wait. It says Lambeosaurus, but I don't know if you can see this. It says it and it's back to front. So the text Lambeosaurus is there, but it's written back to front. It's actually there. So it says Lambeosaurus, made in China. Made in China is the right way around. So I don't know what company made this. I can't really remember off the top of my head where it came from. It might have been part of a random lot I bought on eBay. There must have been a plesiosaur in the mix. So yeah, I just thought it was quite an intriguing figure. I'd never seen it before. So if anybody knows, let me know in the comments. This one's cute. This is a little baby Triceratops. This is a Jurassic Park figure. This came with one of the action figures, one of the human action figures of the original Jurassic Park line by Kenner. Each human came with a different baby. I can't remember off the top of my head which human came with this one. Was it Grant, maybe? Dr. Grant? Or I really don't know. But I always liked it. I thought it was well sculpted and a cute little figure. This is a Kyoto figure, a feathered T-Rex. This was a recent gift from my friend and co-curator of the Dinosaurs of China exhibition. Yeah, Kyoto, the Dinosaur Expo Series 2016. So just last year this was released. I don't know if they were all the work of Forrest Rogers, if all of the Carnegie collection were. I know the vast majority of them were, but I don't know if they all were. This is a D-Long, another feathered Tyrannosaur. We're getting through them. Another one of the more recent Walking with Dinosaurs movie figures. You can never have too many Tyrannosauruses though. These are quite nice because their legs are articulated with a ball and socket joint. They remind me of the old He-Man figures. So that it's not just forwards and backwards, but they go in and out as well. Same here with the arms. They can stretch out, which is a really nice figure. Feature, sorry. That's a really nice feature for an action figure. And the jaws open and close. So this is the Paki. It's the main character. It's recognizable because it has this hole in its frill where I think it was attacked by a Tarbosaurus. Again, I probably wouldn't have ordered that if it wasn't just to review it on the blog. This is a Basilosaurus, primitive whale, part of the sea life tube by Safari. It's one of their tubes. It should go up on the top with the marine reptiles, but it felt like sacrilege to add a mammal up there with all of the reptiles. I don't think it would be welcome. Here's one of the Carnegie oviraptors. There's two slight different variants. I think one is supposed to be a male, one is supposed to be a female. This one doesn't have very ornate arm feathers. No, Patrick, I haven't ordered any of the Beasts of the Mesozoic. They look beautiful, but I just wouldn't have the space to display them. That's the main problem. And I also don't have much time these days to do any reviews. I've got a bit of a backlog of guest reviews that I need to get through. I was thinking of maybe doing it today, but I needed to do something like this, something more therapeutic, because I've had a hectic few months. And so this is my way of relaxing, I suppose, but also getting something done. Really, I need to move. I need to get a house, get more space, because things are starting to get a bit packed in here. I live in a small flat, and there's not much space for more models. Another good old Invicta model here, one of their classics, Triceratops. Yeah, life gets in the way. But it's not bad life, it's good life. So I can't complain too much. The main reason I've been so busy is because I've been working so hard on the Dinosaurs of China exhibition, which is in the process now of being dismantled. So I've got a little bit of time to step away from work. I also got married recently, and haven't been on our honeymoon yet because I've been so busy with work. So we'll do that soon, and then come back for a fresh start. So there is the Triceratops. Some unusual choices, actually, if you think about it. They've got these what look like armored scoots running along the flanks. If you look at the back of the head, the frill is sort of expanded at the back. There's a fleshy bit that runs from the tip of the crest down to the top of the back. So you don't often see that in ceratopsian figures. The frill is usually sculpted separately, almost like a shield, where it just comes straight back down onto the back of the animal. So I'm not sure if they did that for sculpting reasons, so that it came out of the mold a little bit more easy, or if they thought that it really looked like that. But yeah, some interesting things going on in this model, which is one of those figures that I've had for so long that you don't really spend too much time looking at it. But yeah, there's a lot of detail also in the head. You can see some beautiful sculpture work, scales on the frill, on the cheeks. Doesn't get enough credit, I think, the Invicta Triceratops. This is, unfortunately, chewed on the tail. So this must be one that I got from a second-hand shop, because I would never chew on the tail of one of my own figures, even as a child. Thanks for the congratulations, Jesus. This one is a Carnotaurus, very slender creature. This is part of a colorata set. That's the trouble, I think. Even if you have a house, I reckon it would probably fill up very quickly. So maybe it's in my interest, and especially my wife's interest, not to get more space, because I'll just rapidly fill it up. I'm sure there's some sort of law for that, isn't there, where you take the amount of time that you're given. That if you've given a lot of time or a small amount of time, you'll make the job fit that amount of time. And it's same with space. No matter how much space you're given, you will fill it. This is a Kyoto miniature. These are beautiful little figures. I don't have very many, but they are nice. And this one, I think, is a Huiangosaurus, a stegosaur. I think this might be one that I'll need to take Jetor's advice and do a bit of brushing rather than dusting with a cloth, because it's just too delicate to get into the little cracks and bits between the spines. There's something about Invictas, actually, that they're more chewed than any other toy. I think it might be the type of plastic. It's sort of almost like a chewy sweet. It's hard but tempting to chew into, because if you do, you leave a nice indentation. So I think that's what the reason is for all these Invictas being chewed. This is a Stegosaurus by Toyway. Incredibly dusty. What I'd love to get to stop me having to go through this process of dusting dinosaurs, which I don't do very often, maybe once a year, if that. Just too busy. What I'd love to do is just have a proper display cabinet with glass to stop these things getting dusty. But again, the issue is space. We wouldn't have anywhere to put it. But that will be something we'll do in the future when we do finally buy a house, and we will eventually. Yeah, exactly. What waxy candies. These ones are hugging. This is the original Safari Limited Microraptor. This is the Carnegie collection version. Not too bad for its time. Not as good as a new one though. This is another Carnegie collection figure, hefty old Spinosaurus. Really nice model. A fish. Don't have many fish, but I had to make an exception for this particular one, the coelacanth, wild safari coelacanth. It's a really beautiful sculpt, a lot of movement. I think I reviewed this on the Dinosaur Toy blog. This is another colorata, a leaping raptor. I can't remember what it is now. Is it a velociraptor or a Deinonychus? Not entirely sure. The cloth I'm using is a anti-static cloth. I can't remember exactly what brand it is. Let's see if it says. No. But it's really good at the dust jumps off of the figures sometimes onto it. So it's designed for exactly this purpose. It's designed for dusting, but also it protects. It's not abrasive. It's very light and fluffy. I don't know what this figure is. Random. It's actually a very hard, brittle material. I think it might be, maybe it's porcelain, not entirely sure. I think it came in a Christmas cracker one year and ended up in the collection. So a mystery Triceratops with a sort of bobbly nose. That's it for that shelf. We're on to the third one. Guys, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get through all of this, but I'll persevere. We'll see. This is the Dunkleosteus. Really nice golden sheen to the surface. These ones on the bottom shelf are really, really dusty. I suppose it's because they're nearer the floor. They've got more air above them. So yeah, really good figure, that one. This is a Disney's Dinosaur Carnotaurus. I think this might have been given away with a fast food Happy Meal or something like that. There's no markings on it. I can't remember. Oh no, there is. Let's see. China, TKH, copyright Disney. TKH. Well, it's not Burger King or McDonald's then. I'm really not sure. And again, I can't actually remember where this came from. most of the mystery figures in my collection that have been acquired in the past 10 years usually are thrown in as part of a lot of other figures. I'm normally after a rare plesiosaur or something like that. And if I see it on eBay as part of a lot, then I'll grab it. And I'll end up with a bunch of figures I don't really want. This is a Spinosaurus. Oh no, it's an Uranosaurus. I think this is an Uranosaurus with a chainsaw. So if you're into your accuracy, Patrick, maybe not one to add for your collection. But I can't remember exactly which company made these. It's another one from my childhood. It was part of a series of blind bags, I think, of dinosaurs in sort of everyday situations. This is a lumberjack. The next one down here. This one is a raptor playing basketball. If anyone knows or can remember having any of these, I'd love to know what the company was, because I was intrigued to find out what the others in the series would have been. They're really quite bizarre. So this one's got trainers, a raptor with trainers. Yep, chainsaws, basketballs. There was all sorts of things in the series. This is a Schleich. I bought this one in Dublin when I worked in Dublin at Trinity College. There was a toy shop just up the road from me, and I decided to treat myself one day to one of the better Schleichs. So this one reminds me of Ireland. I wonder how many minutes I've been going. I must have been going for over an hour, right? This one is a Carnegie collection Plateosaurus, rearing up onto its tail. Have you seen my marine reptiles? The ones that you've sculpted? I have one, actually. Which ones have you done? I know you've done the Topodentatus. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I think so. Two versions of it, right? But which other ones have you done? This is the nest of the Carnegie Myosaura. There's how many? 2 babies in there and a bunch of egg shells. And this was, of course, sold in a set with the mother. Or father, who knows? We can't rule it out. A Topodentatus, good. I think that's what I said, isn't it? So many new discoveries, even as a paleontologist, it's difficult to keep up. The Pelaneustes and Cryptoclydus, of course. Yeah, I think I've seen your videos. I bought the Topodentatus of yours from Everything Dinosaur. As soon as the Pelaneustes and Cryptoclydus are on Everything Dinosaur, I'd order them as well, unless you know of a better way to order them safely and securely to the UK. This is another Carnegie iguanodon. It's one of the less refined sculpt. It's a little bit rough around the edges. But it's good to see another iguanodon giving me the thumbs up. This is another one of those tops figures. This is the T-Rex in the series. The one we saw before was the Velociraptor. It's also a different color. This one's orange, the other one was gray, but I think they came in multiple different colors. Doesn't look particularly like the T-Rex in the movie, but at least it's on two legs with its tail in the air. And this is the Dilophosaurus in the same set, those tops eggs. They came in a hard plastic egg, which I might have one or two of those lying around. I think there's a full review of those, of the full set of 4 on the Jurassic Collectibles channel, which is worth checking out. This one is the Toyway Polycanthus. Polycanthus is one of my favorite types of dinosaurs, probably because it's British, but it's just a fantastic creature. I always loved it that it has these 3 different sections with the tall spikes above the shoulder blades, the armor plate above the hips, and the triangular plates along the flanks of its tail. It always just seemed so iconic and recognizable, and just a great figure as well. Again, it suffers slightly maybe from that very static pose, but I quite like that. I'm getting covered in dust. Monochrome JP figures that came with a board game I had once upon a time. I don't know which one that is. Maledictosuchus. If I haven't got your marine reptiles yet, Jetor, I will do. I do intend. I'm not a completist when it comes to anything apart from marine reptiles, so I will definitely acquire those eventually. This one I'm working on now, this is another one of the micro machines. This is a Brachiosaurus from the micro machine set. It just has one point of articulation at the base of its neck, which is a ball and socket joint. We looked at the Carnegie Oviraptor earlier. Here is the other one. This one's got the more pronounced arm feathers, slightly different coloration. It's also got these feathers on the tip of its tail, which the other one doesn't have. Otherwise, they're actually the same sculpt. If I grab that one and put them together, you can see they are sculpt-wise identical. So they've obviously been based on the same original model with just tweaks. I think I remember you asking me for my opinion on the Pelaneustes and Cryptoclydus. when you were designing them. The trouble is, like I said, I've been so busy that I can't always reply even when I want to. So yeah, I apologize if I let you down on that. But I'll definitely check them out, and eventually I'll review them on the Dinosaur Toy blog. The one here is the Carnegie Velociraptor, old-fashioned version with the scaly skin, no feathers. And this one, this will be the last one I'm going to talk about before I take a break. But then I'll come back. I need a cup of tea and a bit to eat. This is the Carnegie woolly mammoth. So I'm going to leave you guys for a little while, not long, 5 or 10 minutes, and then boot things back up. And hopefully it will all, maybe I can pause this, I don't know. And if I can, I will, and then I'll be back on the same feed in a moment. So let me see if I can pause this. It's the first time I've ever done this, so it will be interesting to see if I can reboot later. Let's see. Can I stop? I'm going to stop. Okay. Hopefully I'll come back up soon.